Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Shifted. I became an entrepreneur in 2007. So it's fair to say that I've had my fair share of business planning on a annual basis. Now, when I started my business back in 2007, I had no clue what I was doing. I just knew that I was tired of working at law firms, and my husband looked at me and said, "Here's your chance to start your own business. And if it doesn't work out, then you have to go back to working for a law firm." And that was all the motivation I needed to get this thing up and running. So I turned to a lot of my colleagues and some mentors and started hiring coaches on, okay, exactly how do I run a business after my first few years of trying to figure it out on my own and miserably failing at it. And one of the things that they taught me was more about your traditional business planning. How at the end of the year, you review your past year, see what worked, see what didn't, and you start creating a plan for the next year. You set these goals, you break them down into quarterly goals, and then you put together a strategy to help you execute and meet those goals on a quarterly basis so that you're not looking at such a big daunting goal. You're breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps. And you hear this a lot with traditional planning, and it's great advice. And I feel it is super, super important. However, over the years, no matter what approach I was taking to my goals, whether that was, being really reasonable with my monetary goals and how I was going to execute them, or if I was stretching really far, pushing myself outside my comfort zone, at the end of the day, I never felt really supported in my business. I felt like I was always trying to catch up. I was constantly chasing. And the reality is that I was, my business felt heavy every year. I felt drained every year. And I was constantly burning out doing something that I love. And I thought to myself, like, this doesn't make any sense. This is not why I started my business. This is not how I feel or how I want to feel in my business on a year to year basis. So as the years went on and I started getting introduced to more of the energy concepts, you would see some shifts happening in the traditional planning where they would begin to talk about, well, how did you feel this year? What felt heavy? What can you release and let go? How do you want to feel next year? And what are some things that you can do to feel that more in your next year of planning, or even just in your next month of planning? And this was great. This definitely helped. It made a difference. But honestly, I felt like I was flying blind. And so the end of last year, 2024, I said, I'm going to take a completely different approach. In 2024, I had dabbled in working with numerology inside of my business. And I saw a lot of massive shifts. It brought a lot of clarity. It gave me some direction. So I had some more focus. It started to help me really determine what was busy work and what was work that was creating momentum and moving the needle in my business. So I wanted to dive deeper into it. And that's when I uncovered something called your personal year in numerology. Now, your personal year is like the theme, or you can call it the season of life that you are in from an energetic perspective. And this doesn't run calendar to calendar year. This literally runs from your birthday to birthday. So I took a look at what my personal year was, And I started creating a plan around that. I said, what if this was my compass for the strategy that I put into place? And this was the perspective that I have when I am making my decisions and interacting with my business. And so that was the approach that I implemented at the end of 2024 to bring into 2025. And man, what a massive difference I experienced in my business in 2025 than I had in any year. Now, there have been several years where I struggled in my business. There has also been several years where I had massive financial success inside of my business. But it wasn't until this year when I had the approach that not only did I meet my goals, I exceeded my goals, but it didn't feel heavy and it wasn't draining. And I most certainly didn't burn out. In fact, I felt my most creative this year and inspired, empowered. I felt liberated actually this year, which helped me to feel more freedom inside of my business. I also gained a tremendous amount of confidence this year because self trust just continued to build over and over and over again as I was making my decisions and taking actions from an energy led strategy versus what made more logic sense. And that's what I'm going to stick with. I've done that in the past. And yeah, I saw success, but it came with the year feeling heavy and also really draining and leading me to burnout. So that just means that that approach is not sustainable. And so, with the results that I had this year, I decided that I wanted to bring this strategy into my membership, the Rising Entrepreneur membership. And so I started to create a workshop for them for the end of this year. I hosted it just recently this week. You know, the time of this recording is December 18th. And as I began to put this workshop together to not only show them what the strategy looks like and how to uncover what their personal year is, but how they can actually infuse it into their business, not only the next year, but month by month by month, what this approach really looks like. And I thought to myself, why am I saving this for just my members? This is information and a strategy that can help so many different people. And I want anybody and everybody to have access to this information. So I decided to take this workshop live. It was open to anybody that was interested in it. You didn't have to be in my membership. And to my surprise, I had a tremendous turnout. I was ecstatic with the turnout. Now, the first day that I just put this out there on social media and said, hey, I'm hosting this workshop. This is what it's about. I had 10 signups. And 10 might not seem like a big number, but for me, it was huge because it showed that there was interest there. And that registration just continued to grow over the next 2 weeks. And then so many people actually showed up. Now, this is a bit of a tangent here, so just bear with me for a second. This may not sound like big numbers, but this is a big deal for me because literally just fall of last year, I was hosting a workshop or a webinar where I had like no signups. I had, I think, like 5 people sign up, and I was hosting this webinar over 3 different days, and there were 2 different times each day. So there were 6 opportunities to show up for this webinar. I think I had like a total of 5 signups, and there was one person that showed up to just one of the webinars. And then I found out later that even though she was logged on, she actually wasn't paying attention to the webinar. It was just kind of on in the background while she was busy doing other things. So the fact that I had so much interest and then people showed up, and not only did they show up, but it was such an interactive workshop. It showed me that my new approach created momentum. I experienced growth. There is a huge difference last year to this year in my approach and in the results. And I don't know about you, but when I see momentum and growth, that tells me that I'm on the right track, that I've got something here and I'm going to continue to lean into it. And now I want to share this workshop with you. It's called the 2026 Reset. It's an energetic fresh start. And really what it's about is it's showing you how to incorporate energy strategy with your more traditional strategy when it comes to planning your business. But I go deeper than that inside of the workshop and show you how you can use numerology on a month by month basis to give you more clarity, to bring more focus so that you have more momentum inside of your business. And it's done in a way that doesn't feel heavy. It's not draining. It feels natural. It feels easy. There's some flow that is beginning to happen, which literally energizes you, gives you more energy. And now I'm sharing it with you. You can find the 2026 workshop on my YouTube channel, which is called the Conscious Business Hub. And I'm going to put all the links that you need to access the workshop for free, as well as the accompanying workbook for free in the show notes. So be sure to tap down below so that you can gain access to both the workshop and the workbook. And just know that it doesn't stop there. If you have any questions, or if you are just wanting to share your results with me, then shoot me an email, send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to hear your biggest ahas, your takeaways, and even what your personal year is and how you plan on integrating this inside of your business for 2026. So if you are tired of the traditional planning because it leads to your year feeling really heavy and draining, then take this as your opportunity to say yes to a new strategy, one that leads with your energy. So give this a try and see what shifts for you. Hi, I'm Kimberly Romano, Indian wedding photographer turned brand photographer and human design reader. Thank you for tuning into Shifted, the podcast that is here to spark a shift in you that creates big change in your energy, perspective, and direction. And if this episode sparked a shift in you, then subscribe and leave a review sharing what your shift was. Not only will this help others discover this podcast, but your shift can inspire them to have a shift of their own. Please remember, the content you hear in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as legal, health, or financial advice. For professional guidance, I encourage you to seek out a trusted expert near you. Thank you again for tuning into Shifted. Until next time, keep leaning into the shift.